Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Sevilla, librarian here at the Livermore Public Library Civic Center, and the chairperson for the Livermore Reads Together program, community-wide reading program. Welcome to tonight's program, and also a special welcome to Rich Hunt, who is the vice chairperson for the Livermore Library Board of Trustees. Thank you, Rich. Yeah. He does a lot for the library, and we really appreciate his support. If you're interested in maybe someday joining the board or interested in learning more about it, please feel free to chat with Rich after the program. Welcome to tonight's program, featured with our featured author for this month, Anne Parker. Yeah. Welcome. And Judy Wheeler, owner of Towne Center Books in Pleasanton and Livermore. Yes, before we begin tonight's conversation between our honored guests, I would like to express my gratitude to the Friends of the Livermore Public Library for their generous support of library programs such as Livermore Reads Together. So, thank you. Do you have any friends, members? Oh, thank you. If you want to join, become a member, we have a membership form there. Or if you want to just show your appreciation, there is a donation box outside, at the table outside. And of course, thank you for all of you for being here this evening. Your support makes programs like this possible. Definitely, we can't do this if you don't show up. So, thank you. Quick housekeeping note, please silence your cell phones. So after the conversation, we'll have time for a Q&A and a book signing. If you'd like to purchase a copy of the book, come by the table after the show, and you can buy a copy there. So now, without further ado, I will hand the mic to Judy Wheeler for her conversation with Anne Parker. Enjoy.
Thank you. Oh, this is exciting and terrifying. I've never been the one to do this before. But it's a pleasure to do it with Anne, who I've known for quite a while now, even I think before Silver Lies was just still going. And she's been working on it. She is a writer, published with many, many books that are out there. But most importantly, she works part-time at Towne Center Books. So I love it. We finally nabbed her. I think this whole time it was like, don't you want to work here? But she does also lead our mystery book club, which I assume all of you are mystery fans. And so come on the third Tuesday of every month, and you go through different genres and have a good time. Anyway, thank you for writing and being here. And how many have read Silver Lies? Oh my goodness. Okay. Uh-oh. Just got harder. Well, and if you haven't, mystery books sometimes have a formula a little bit, and they have things you look for. And Anne, I think, is a little bit of a rebel and maybe broke a few of those formulas, because this book is really kind of a combo story. It is a mystery book, it's also a historical fiction book, and it has some literary little quotes in here too. So she's crossed some genres, and so I think we'll explore some of those tonight and some of her techniques for writing, and including all of this. This has a few more words on the page than some mystery books, but it still moves really quickly, so don't be afraid. Just it's full. It's full, yeah. So, let's see, where should we start? Let's start with mystery, because we've sort of built it as this is a mystery. Although I think Livermore Reads Together, we need to go strong into the history as well. But I know that I've heard you say before that the mystery has a few criteria if you're a mystery writer. And the body's supposed to drop in a certain number of pages. She drops the body in the prologue, just for the record. But maybe there's some other things that you kind of pay attention to if you're writing a mystery?
Well, sure, yeah, there's certain things that mystery readers expect. And if you're a hardcore mystery reader out there, maybe you even got some other ideas that won't appear at the top of my mind right now. But the body, if it's a murder, needs to show up in the first couple of chapters. So yeah, I drop a body right away. Generally, there are two bodies, and the second one shows up maybe halfway through, kind of ratchets up the tension, and I think I did that at about halfway through. You need to leave clues, you need to play fair. Nothing upsets a mystery reader more, those of you who agree can nod, than to get to the end and say, what? You know, this person is, you know, the villain? I didn't see that coming. And then you look and look and look, and you can't find any clues except maybe one really sneaky mention, like in the first couple of chapters of this character. So, and by the same token, you don't wrap it up with, what's the Latin phrase, act of God. You know, the bad guy gets by lightning and end of story. So those are a few, you know, you want to play fair with the reader is a big one. And yeah, so if you don't plant enough clues, and it's tricky because if people guess too soon who done it, then, you know, it's kind of anticlimactic. And I'm curious, how many of you guessed who done it before you got pretty close to the end? Anybody get it kind of early on? Who read it? No, I did my job. Was there anyone here who got to the part where you realized who the villains are and said, what?
No.
I did my job.
Right. So it is also historical fiction, and I think a lot of research has gone into this book to make it feel like it does, that we are in Leadville and we are sloshing through the mud. I think this might not be the era that I picked. But it feels very, very real, so maybe you can tell us how you do all of that and why.
How I do it all and why? Well, do you folks want to know why I picked Leadville? Since I am like a native Californian. And that might kind of back me up into, then I can talk about kind of where I went in my techniques. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Native California, born and bred just over the hills in the East Bay area. Okay. But my parents came from Colorado. They were both raised in Denver. We had lots of relatives there. We'd go back for major, you know, holidays like Christmas. I still remember taking the California Zephyr, you know, to Denver in the 50s, I guess it would be. But, you know, it was so exciting to go there, and there was snow, and there, you know, I just loved Colorado. I loved my grandparents. I mean, being around the relatives was great fun. And so I really wanted to live in Colorado. I went to college for a year there, and then I ran out of money, and I had to come home, you know. And then, you know, I kept thinking, well, maybe I can get back. But you know how life goes. I got a job at Livermore. I met my dear husband at Livermore Lab. We had our children, and you know, we stayed in Livermore. We got to see Livermore change a lot. And how many years, Bill? 50? Oh, close to half a century. So, but all that time, Colorado has kind of kept a piece of my heart. So when when we were there on a family vacation with the kids, and this would be 1996, and I was there with my ancient uncles and aunts. I mean, ancient, okay, they were probably my age now that I think about it, but you know, at the time. And my Uncle Walt, who's kind of the family historian, turned to me and said, well, you know, Anne, your granny was raised in Leadville, just right up the road. And I kind of went, what? Because I had heard many of Granny's stories, and Leadville had not played a part in any of them. She talked about Denver, about being a young woman in Denver and meeting Grandpa and all this sort of thing. Leadville? And I said, what the heck is Leadville? I've never heard of it. My Uncle Walt got very excited and said, oh my gosh, Anne, it was just, oh, it was such a hell-raising place. It's Silver Rush, just amazing. And then he said, Anne, I know you're a writer. I know you've been thinking about writing fiction. Yes, I have. I think you need to research Leadville and set a story there. So let's blame it all on Uncle Walt. And while we were there, this is the very Colorado handbook that the family, look at some nods, yeah, that we were using to tour around and you know, take the kids adventuring a little bit. I'm going to read you the piece about Leadville that just got me going and convinced me that, yeah, I had to look into this place. All right, here we go. During the early 1880s, Leadville was a rambunctious town with 3 breweries, brass bands playing every night along State Street, drunken women driving carriages and smoking long black cigars, fights, vigilantes, rowdy gambling halls where the mine owners played for huge stakes, and a general sense of silver-induced frenzy. Mines and anything remotely resembling one, including simple holes in the ground, were sold and resold at huge profits, often over the course of a single day. One winter, a gravedigger hit a silver vein while preparing to bury a body, and the cemetery was immediately staked out. The dead man was left in a snowbank, frozen stiff until spring. And I read this and I thought, I really have to find out more about this place. And while working at the Livermore Lab just down the road, I was a science writer, and I knew how to research, you know, topics that I knew nothing about. I knew how to get up to speed and where to go and where to look for answers. So I just started the journey, you know. And back in 1996, the internet was not what it is today. And so that meant microfiche, that meant real books like Leadville, Colorado's Magic City, a great kind of an overall book about Leadville. It meant, oh, this was amazing. This is a PhD thesis. I got a hard copy of it. You can actually buy these things, or you could at one point. A social history of Leadville, Colorado during the boom days, 1877 to 1881. That was a PhD thesis, and there is so much good stuff in here. So I did a lot of research. I took I read a lot of mysteries, and I decided I was going to write a mystery set in this boomtown time frame, featuring a strong woman character, because when I looked around at the mystery field in the mid-1990s, there wasn't anything that was doing, you know, set up like that. So I thought, oh, I can do this. I can find this little niche and go for it. And I took a class from Penny Warner, who many of you may know. She's a mystery writer, local up out of Danville, and just learned how to analyze mysteries, how to structure a mystery, because I read a lot of mysteries, but I didn't know the nuts and bolts, hadn't really thought about mysteries that way. How do you put one together? And as I was writing, working on my first draft and getting critiques from Critique Group and from Penny, people kept saying, well, aren't you going to go to Leadville? Like, go and visit? No, I'm too busy. I'm working. I have little kids. Da-da-da-da-da. Well, Anne, you really should go. So I did, and I was, boy, I'm so glad I did, because even though I'd looked at photographs, and I've read a lot of books, I didn't have the picture of the geology and just the environment, correct all. So I was able to go back and fix my draft. But while I was there, I had a lot of questions about mining and sort of, just the ins and outs of assaying and, how do you consolidate a mine? What does that mean, business term? So I met up with a fellow that the mining museum, you're not going to get a chance to ask me any questions. I'm sorry.
I asked you about assaying. I was going to ask about assaying, so there you go.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, when I went up there, I met a fellow who had been in Leadville for his grandfather had come to Leadville as a young man from Philadelphia to be a lawyer. And his grandfather had written back home to Philadelphia every week to his mother, describing Leadville in 1879. And this fellow, whose name was Bob Elder, he had this big binder when we were talking. He was holding it on his lap, and he said, well, Anne, we've transcribed the letters. They're kind of hard to read if you try to read them, as they were. If you want, you could take it and just copy whatever you want. A lot of it's boring, like the price of a shirt and what he had for breakfast. Oh my gosh, those are telling details that can help bring a story alive. And so here is one little bit from Bob Elder's grandfather, written in September 1879, to his mother. I cannot imagine what his mother felt when she read this. It says, murders occur in such a terribly reckless manner that it is uncertain who will be the next victim. Pistols are drawn so quickly, and most of them are these self-cockers that are almost as dangerous to the owners as to his enemies. I have lost all fear, and it seems to me that a man cannot help becoming like the country out here. I carry my revolver about me in the nighttime, and I do not think the small amount of Quaker blood in me would be any hindrance to its swift and immediate use. No man dare flourish a revolver and threaten to shoot, as it is invariable rule to fire at once and count the cost afterwards. A murderer is safer in Leadville than a horse thief. Perfect setup for a murder mystery.
And just what Mom wants to hear.
Just what, I know. I was surprised she didn't send in money and say, you come back right away, you could be a lawyer here in Philadelphia.
There's a lot of science in that too. When I was reading, I was reminded of, weighing them and all the fire being the right temperature. So I guess your science background was very useful.
Well, it was, but I had a cousin who knew someone whose hobby was silver assay in Colorado during the silver
Oh
rush.
my gosh.
So I was asked things like, how would an assayer cheat? And so we sat there and pondered and worked it all out.
All right.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So she obviously has tons of information, so it couldn't all fit in one book. So when you're writing a series, when you started, did you have that in mind? How do you keep your characters there so you remember who's who and draw the city so you know who lives where so you can go on, or what do you do?
It's, for a while there I was relying on my memory, which wasn't always accurate. And, I think it was the third book I was writing, and I stopped and I had like Susan Carruthers' eyes as green or something. And I went, wait a minute, are they green? And I had to go back and check the first book. Oh, they're brown in the first book. Oh my gosh, I hope I made them brown in the second book. Yeah. And at that point I started doing a character sheet, like, date of birth and what they look like. And if I found pictures on the internet, this is further along. Like, ooh, this looks just like how I imagine so-and-so to look. I'd sort of grab it. And I know some people keep very detailed character profiles. Mine are more general. And I do use maps. I have maps of Leadville from that time frame, like bird's eye maps and hand-drawn maps, and I will put, this is where she lives, this is where the saloon is. The funny thing is I actually put the fictional saloon where a saloon used to be, a real one. And there's a bar, a historical bar very close to that location. I will have people come up to me very excited and say, I went to Leadville and I went into the Silver Queen. It's like, no, that's the silver dollar. So, yeah, but don't want to burst their bubble. They're excited. Maps are really helpful. Yeah.
In the first one, you do indeed mention California and San Francisco. Was that always your goal? I don't think we're giving anything away if we say Inez ends up in San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't think that's a huge, big spoiler. If it is, we're very sorry. You just have to read the rest of the books and find out what happens, why she doesn't. But yeah, I reread Silver Lives recently for the first time in a long time myself, and I went, oh my gosh, I really set it up that she's going to California. She wants to be there. What happened was, in reality, in my day-to-day life, I was writing the 5th book, which is What Gold Buys. And certain things happened there. Okay. And as I'm writing really fast to get to the end. That's usually how I write a book. I start it, and I'm so excited. I know exactly how it starts. And then it's like driving down a road with the headlights on. It illuminates as I go, okay? In the middle, sometimes I get a little lost and a little muddled, so I have to back up a little bit, rethink things, think hard about where I'm going. All right, then we go forward again. By the time I get to about the last quarter of the book, yeah, it's really clear. I know exactly where I'm going, and I just can't write hard and fast enough to get there. So when I was working on What Gold Buys, I was writing I was going, oh my gosh, she's going to California. No, I want her to stay in Leadville. Oh no, she is getting on the train. And it was really, some people say or ask, well, does your character ever take over? It's like, well, I'm always in charge. But, the drive and the energy and the momentum, it was clear. I could not escape the fact she was going to California. She was going to San Francisco, just like she wanted to from the start. Oh, my gosh. And then I was trying to think, well, maybe I can just, in the next book, have 2 years mysteriously pass, and she comes back to Leadville, nobody knows what's happened to her. And my dear editor, who's a wonderful editor, she looked at me, she said, no, you sent her to San Francisco. You have to now write your books set in San Francisco. She's there. And I was like, but I don't know anything about San Francisco. She said, you live in that area. How hard can it be? I don't live in San Francisco in 1882. So it was a whole new era, an area to research. Oh boy.
To go again.
Yeah.
From the beginning, no one's going to corral Inez. So
that's true.
You got to listen to her.
Yeah.
There she goes.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do I want to ask her?
I just drove down that road and you're like, what?
So how did you pick names for your characters? There's one character in there named Useless. Everyone wants that name. So how do you, I'm going to name this character Useless when you're starting to write.
Well, actually, that one came by way of a friend. Believe it or not, I think I had him just named, I don't know what I named him actually, originally. I would have to go back. I did keep a copy of the original draft I wrote, which was ginormous. But anyway, a writing friend of mine who's no longer with us, unfortunately, but she said, you know, this guy, he's like an idiot. And he needs a Western name. You know, they all had nicknames. You got to give him a nickname. Call him Useless, because he's so useless. I said, oh, I like that. So she was the one who helped me with that. And that was truly a stroke of genius on her part, I think, because it really worked. And some of the other names, you know, if you read books about the Old West, you pick up, there were a lot of nicknames. So, you know, Curly Dan, who's bald, you know, that kind of thing was very common. So, you know, the Sundance Kid, hey, you know. So I just picked some up from literature and mashed them together different ways. That was one way of doing it. Or sometimes the name would just come to me. It's a little hard to remember those because I wrote this a long time ago. But I remember Useless, the gift of useless.
I actually went to the internet to see if the artist Llewellyn was an actual artist, because it seemed like such a name that should be. I bet he's real, but he wasn't.
No, he's just Llewellyn Tremaine. It does sort of flow along.
Sounds like he should be a famous artist, doesn't it?
All in ruffles and everything else.
Yeah. Also, just a little tiny drop in there of, speaking of the artist, and the picture that he's drawing or painting in the bar, based on A Paradise Lost, and you have the one quote, "Sin of injured pride." Did that enter your mind as you were writing the whole plot thing? It seemed a little profound.
I have to say, I really give credit to my subconscious mind for a lot of this. I knew that when the mirror broke in the story, really it is like I was driving down the road with the headlights on. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with this? We got this big, you know, empty space. And I loved Paradise Lost. It was one of those books I read in college and just loved analyzing it and writing papers about it. And it just really came to me, wow, you know, people talk about the face on the barroom floor. Forget that. We could do Paradise Lost on the back. So I did have to have, you know, the book, her reading it, and so on and so forth to kind of set it up. But yeah, it just was one of those flashes of inspiration that felt right, and it worked. It was great. And then, oh, she could sell spots on the wall. Oh, this could get interesting. Yeah, so
That's fun.
it was fun. It was fun and unexpected.
So what was your biggest surprise you had writing this book, either about the story itself or about writing a novel? You'd never done one of those before. You were a science writer.
Yeah.
It couldn't be too bad you did it again.
I did it a few more times, yeah. It was interesting to me how I don't know what the right word is. That's too bad, I'm a wordsmith. But, you know, when I did it all on computer because 1996, okay, computers are around, personal, you know, PCs and so on. But how easy it was for me to just fall into that world. When I sat down to write, you know, I might have a little getting going again on wherever it was I stopped. But boy, I could just disappear into it. You know, pity the poor family, right? The dinner what? Oh, is it dinner time? Oh, well, let's just pull out some instant mac and cheese, folks. You know? But I did a lot of writing at night when the kids were asleep, and I would write late into the night. You know, I'd sit down at 10 p.m. and think, wow, I'm really tired. I'll just do this for half an hour. You know, just get some words on the page. And then Bill would come down to, you know, Anne, it's 2 a.m. we need to get up tomorrow morning, get the kids to school, you gotta go to work tomorrow. You know, and time would just disappear. It's like I was just pulled into the world. And that I didn't expect. I thought I'd have it more under control, you know.
Dangerous cat.
It was
So
dangerous.
did you write did you have a schedule? Like, I need to write every day so many words, or just when you
No,
were called in,
you know,
I had a spare moment, maybe.
yeah, pretty much. You know, I would write at night, and I'm pretty sure I was pretty consistent with early books and so on, with writing after the kids went to sleep. And I could stay up late and then power through the next day on coffee. But, you know, the voices were always there. Oh, that sounds so weird. Did they pull my security clearance? I don't need it anymore. But, you know, they were always there kind of talking to me, and lines of dialogue would come to me, and I, you know, scribble them down on a piece of paper for the evening, and or a scene. Oh, this is how I could start that scene or finish that scene. Oh, this is what's going to come next. So it was always kind of bubbling away, you know, as I did my job and did my day-to-day things. Yeah, I was not one of those, I kind of wish I was, who, you know, they get up at 5 a.m. and they write until 8 a.m. and they've done it. They're 3 hours for the day and then they start their day. I once tried to get up before dawn to write, and it was a total disaster. I just sat there. Yeah, no, so I was definitely a night owl in the writing field. Writing fiction.
Fiction. All right, well, let's see. I think that's my questions. To some of you, you've got a lot of people who've read your book here. I bet we've got some questions in the audience as well.
Yeah, if you have any questions for Anne or Judy, you know. I think there's a hand there. Go ahead.
Greer, I saw you raise your
Yes. Question I always ask authors. The first sentence.
Yes, the
Talk
first.
about your first
Oh,
sentence.
my first sentence. If there was an Arctic version of hell, Joe Rose was living it in Leadville, Colorado. I think that's pretty much it.
You know it.
Well,
It
is that it?
Yeah.
All right. That, you know, that sentence really came to me. Just, I hate to say, it just came to me, but it did. You know, and it sounded right, and that was my starting point. Later books, not so easy. You know, I'd have kind of the opening scene in mind, and I'd write, and then I'd have to go back and fix and that opening line, because it is the first thing people will read, and depending, you know, I mean, it kind of depends what genre you're writing in, because it could be a funny line. I mean, Carl Hyacin, you know,
Yeah.
you know, his first line is what? You know, but whatever it is, it needs to kind of set it up and pull the writer in, hook them in. Yeah, and usually it takes more time.
And you don't have the ending when you start.
Let me think. No.
Any
I-
goal.
I often have an idea of who I think did the crime. I'll know what the crime, I'll have an idea of the crime. You know, what's going to happen? A body's going to fall out of a wall when they break the wall. That's the latest book. No spoiler, happens right away. You know, Joe is going to get trampled in the mud by a horse. And I have lots of discussions with horse people who are saying, no, a horse wouldn't do that. No, maybe you could make a horse do that, you know? But, so I know the setup and the victim. And I have an idea of who I think did it, but a lot of times that changes as...
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you storyboard or mind map or anything along those lines?
In the later books, what I did was, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. In the early books, I just kept it all in my brain. And that was, I don't know how I did that. My brain is not up to that anymore. In later books, what I did was I would write about a third of the book into the headlights, which is what I love. It's what you call a pantser. Someone who does an outline, right? You just start and you see where it goes. But for these later books, I'd get about a third of the way in, and then I'd go, okay, and I'd stop, and I'd outline that third. You know, just a couple sentences per chapter. What happened, what was, you know, important to the plot and the story. And then I would do the same for the rest of the book. Okay, next chapter. Just a sentence or two. This has got to happen. All right, next chapter. If this happens, what's the important thing that's got to happen next? And I do that, and then I would revise if I needed to. So it wasn't really structured plotting that I was not a plotter, someone who laid it all out in a plot and just followed that.
You always had a devious mind.
Have I always had a devious mind? Oh, I don't know. I've always had a very active imagination. I mean, I was the kind of kid who, the report cards would come home, and my mother kept all those report cards that would say, Anne is not focusing in class. She is not listening. She is not paying attention. I was in my own little world. Yes?
I love the strong female character you have with Inez, and I was wondering to what extent it mattered that it was Colorado and the frontier in the West for a woman like this to have this freedom to do things because of laws and kind of like the wild nature of the frontier. And then on the flip side, or was it harder for her to have more independence because she's surrounded by a world of men and she has to navigate in this world of men?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my gosh. Let's see here. Yeah, I deliberately wanted a woman in the West because the opportunities were greater for women there. You know, they could do different things. They could be typesetters. They could be miners. There were not very many. They could work on newspapers. And I guess they did that back east too, but it was a wider world and there was more room. And there was room to make money. You could make biscuits and you could get rich in the gold rush, right, here in California. So when I was thinking about Inez and how I wanted her character to be, you know, before I really even started writing very much about her, I knew that I didn't want her to be an all virtuous, and I didn't want her to be a complete, villain. I wanted her to be sort of morally ambiguous, like most of us are, right? We have our good sides, and then we got the sides that kind of can come to the fore and mess things up. And I wanted to be able to play with that, like a woman who is not an angel and not a devil, but something in between. And a strong woman. Now, I've been blessed in my life to be surrounded by many strong women, my mother, my grandmothers, my aunts. So I took a lot of their characteristics, that iron spine, that they just, they persist and they make their way, whatever that way was. I wanted to set her up. I debated whether to make her a journalist, or I really liked the idea of running a saloon, because I thought, oh, that's a little, that's out of the ordinary. But I did find in the census, there were 300 saloons in Leadville, 3 were run by women. Okay? And, I was working at Livermore Lab at the time as a science writer, or I guess I was a technical editor back then, and I was one woman in a department full of men, and I said, I think I can do this character because I know what this is like. I've got a degree in physics. I was often the only woman in the room taking quantum mechanics or what have you, okay? So yeah, I kind of took some of my experiences, and I read a lot of, there's some great books like The Victorian Woman in the Victorian Woman in the American West, and there are a couple others that I referenced, I know, that have strong women characters that just, they were amazing, these women who came out west. Some of them came because their husbands were looking to get rich or adventure or new land, and some of them came because they wanted the adventure or the land or to start a new life. And there was room for that. There was a lot of room for that, I think. So, yeah, in Colorado, like I said, it was a piece of my heart. And there was Leadville just waiting for me. Hope I answered your question. Yes?
Who are some of your favorite writers, be it mystery or otherwise?
Ooh, some of my favorite writers, mystery or otherwise. Okay, gosh. All right, let's go. Well, Willa Cather, who's actually O Pioneers, I love that book. And that was one of the ones that you all could have voted for me. You did. I would have been very happy to read O Pioneers. Although I'm very honored, I gotta say, to be the person, you know, to have Silver Lies picked for the Livermore Reads. I was shocked and honored and thrilled. But, so Willa Cather is one. I always loved Martin Cruz Smith in the mystery field. He wrote, not Name of the Rose, but Rose. Yeah, he wrote Rose, which is about a woman in a coal town in England in 1870s. And it's a mystery. And he just writes the world so well. When he talked, he's unfortunately gone now, but when he would talk about writing that book, he went to that area. He said, I wake up in the morning and I can hear them walking on the streets in their clogs with the metal clog soles and what that sounds like going down the street, just like it would have been in 1870s, you know. So and he went into the mines, you know, to write that book. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I know I'm going to think of a million people.
You mentioned Carl Hiaasen.
Oh, I love Carl Hiaasen. He's so fun. He is fun. He's a sneaky writer. He sneaks in all kinds of very pertinent topics while making you laugh along the way.
Out loud.
Yeah. And actually, I just read a classic by an author that I'd been wanting to read, so I forced the entire mystery reading group to read it along with me. I mean, this is what I sometimes do. We need to read this person. Chester Himes, A Rage in Harlem. Okay? And it's Harlem in 1957. It is a dark and gritty book. And I'll tell you, I read that book and then I watched the movie Sinners, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to back away from this world a little bit. Yeah. And oh my gosh, there's so many others. I'm looking at my family. What have I been reading when I talk about? Judy. I know. Oh, go to Towne Center Books and you can read the books. The titles that I have picked each month that I have enjoyed.
Livermore or Pleasanton?
I think we have them in both, yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
And we post them every month, once a month, what people have read and liked.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yes, Paul.
So how about in film? Do you have any favorite films, like be it Western or mysteries or otherwise?
Okay, films. Well, I'll tell you, the influence of Westerns on my life started when I was a kid. And I would go to my best friend's house and we would lie on the rug while her dad watched Gunsmoke and, Wanted, Dead or Alive and all this. And I sort of absorbed a lot of Westerns then, and it was exciting. But even then, I kind of went, and I was young, I was 8, 9. The guys are having all the fun. How come the women don't get to have this fun? Ride horses fast and shoot from the hip and, So already I was thinking about that. I love the spaghetti westerns of old. Clint Eastwood, there you have a morally ambiguous character, the man with no name, right? Is he the anti-hero, right? One of the first anti-heroes. Let me think. Oh, I enjoyed Deadwood, the series. Dark and gritty. I like that. Some strong women characters in there. What else have I seen that I really enjoyed? Well, I love classics. This is not Western, but Casablanca. Wow. I watched a lot of the Oscar movies this year. I loved Hamnet, and I also loved the book.
Yeah.
There's a great book. Okay, Hamnet. Well, there's a few anyway. Maybe I should do a blog column on Anne's favorite movies. That's a good idea.
Speaking of movies, have you thought about having someone make a movie on your book or books?
Oh, if they wanted to, I would say go to it, folks. Yeah. It's not up to me because the publisher holds the rights. And I think it would make a wonderful movie. And Inez could be a fun character, a great character. But it requires momentum from someone that's not me. Yeah. But
I get Andy Weir.
yeah, I need to pick Andy Weir's name. But how did you get that movie deal?
This is the second one.
I know, yeah. Have you seen him, Mary? We're off topic now. Is it good? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen the new one.
Oh, okay.
But I read the book. So.
All right. Yeah. Yes.
I went to Leadville once myself, just
Yeah.
passing through.
Yeah.
And I thought it wouldn't be a place many people would like to live, to stay. And I'm wondering, did you meet people and talk to people who have lived? You mentioned a man who lived there for a long time. I mean, what captured your imagination about that place?
What captured, well, certainly the history caught my imagination. The whole boom and bust, the boom times. I mean, hey, we live in the Bay Area. At the time that I was starting to write Silver Lives, it was the .com boom. Does anyone here still remember the .com boom? People were going crazy. Where I worked, we had, the tech folks I knew were saying, so long, suckers, I've got my stock options. I am going to be rich, and I am going to retire in a year. I'm heading off to do this startup, and you guys are all stuck here in your 9-to-5 jobs. Goodbye. And how many of them really got rich, right? The desire to get rich quick. I mean, I was seeing it all around me. And in the history of Leadville, there it was in 1879. As for the people who live there now, interesting bunch. When I first went up to Leadville in, it would have been 1997, most of the mines had closed. So it was a pretty depressed time. It was a town that didn't know what it was going to do next. I could have picked up real estate for a song. Oh my gosh. So much of the 19th century, beautiful 19th century homes, little ones. You didn't build big homes because winter lasts 9 months out of the year. Heating those places was hard. Staying warm was murderous. And people who were there at that time, a lot of them had pretty deep roots. Their parents had come to Leadville, or their grandparents had, and they were there.
It's like a hiking back then, right?
Oh, it is a big, hiking and what do you call century rides and century runs, running above 10,000 feet through the Rockies for 24 hours or 48 hours straight. So there is a lot of, it's been maybe the past 10 years, maybe more. You've been getting these super athletes, runners, bikers, and wealthy people who are coming in, people who've been in Leadville for a long time are sort of like, we don't want to turn into Aspen, but the scenery is gorgeous, the air is fresh, the real estate is affordable, it's going to happen eventually. It's happening now. It is a beautiful place. Oh, hard to breathe. You come up from Denver, it's, yeah. So did you actually stop in Leadville, or did you
Just
just?
for an afternoon, there's a coffee shop, and
Yep.
it was filled with all these people. It looked like they'd been on these overnight hikes with their backpacks, and, you know, but they're all relaxed, and it seemed like, I want to come here, I want to spend some time here, and maybe move here, but I couldn't.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I feel sometimes too, you know. But, hey, Livermore's got good coffee. That's all right. And it's got a great library and a wonderful bookstore. And hiking, yeah. I can't forget that hiking, especially now the poppies are out and everything. It's a little warm for me, but anyway. Any more questions?
Well, I have one. You mentioned about Inez now that she's in San Francisco. The next book, is there a next book coming out for me in San Francisco?
Oh gosh, I have ideas. You know what I would like to do? Okay, how many have actually read the most recent book, Secret in the Wall? A few of you? I really want to write a book that features Antonia. And I just think it would be fun to do a book with Antonia and have Inez. She's all busy doing something, you know. She's not paying attention to the girl. The girl's doing her own thing. But, so I have ideas. I just need to, I can no longer stay up till 2 a.m. and write. Dang. So I've tried to figure out how I'm going to do this next. Yep.
You'll let us know when your blog is done.
Oh, yes. I will let the world know. Trust me. Thanks for asking. Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned Augusta Tabor, and I was wondering if you were inspired by any other like real life female characters that lived, you know, in the West.
Well, yeah. Oh, gosh. And I feel really. Oh my gosh. A Victorian gentlewoman in the far west was the wife of a mining engineer, and I was inspired by her advent. She was a writer and an artist, and I swear I cannot drag up her name right now. It's really embarrassing. I'll look it up and tell you in a minute when I can get my phone out. But she was inspiring. Tomboy Bride was an inspiration, and Gambler's Wife, the woman who, that was her memoir. She was really fascinating. Her husband was just taking off. Oh, this is in the 19th century. He's taking off. He's gambling here. He's gambling there. He comes back when he's, you know, kind of out of money and has nowhere else to turn. So he comes back home, and then he'll take off again. And she just ran businesses wherever she wanted. She was actually in the Bay Area and ran a chicken farm in San Leandro. And I went, wow, wait a minute, that's where I went to school, in San Leandro. Anyway, she was a woman who had a lot of spunk and determination, and she went up to Alaska for the gold rush up there. So, yep, that Gambler's Wife. Oh my gosh, and I'm so sorry I cannot dredge up her name, but I can find it for you in a minute. Yeah. There's some amazing women in the West.
Seems like with all those guns and murders, there'd be a lot of opportunities for women.
I know. The men are just following over.
Yeah.
Fighting among themselves and killing each other off.
Although Inez had a gun.
Oh, she had a gun. Yep. And she knew how to use it. I actually had a chance to hold a Remington Spoot patent number 2 in my hand from an antiques gun dealer. He let me look at it and just feel the weight of it, which was really wonderful. I mean, I didn't want a gun in the house, clearly, but it was nice to actually hold a weapon from that era that, yeah, she could put this in her pocket and it wouldn't, you know, drag her pocket down or things like that. That would work. So.
One last question, sorry. I know Inez likes to puts on disguises. Were you inspired by Sherlock Holmes? Or?
No, I was inspired by, by reading about women in the Civil War who dressed as men to follow their husbands. In some cases, I think there were even some women who just went because they just wanted to they wanted to fight. They wanted to fight as a man. They didn't, so that was inspiring. And there's an amazing photo book, and if I get the title right, I think it's called Women in Pants. And it is just a photo book of women throughout the ages, or modern ages, like 19th century, 18th century, early 20th, in pants, and there's just something about women would do this for the freedom to move around, the freedom to be invisible and to do things that they couldn't do as women, in their petticoats and with society the way it was. Yep.
Well, if anyone wants to catch up on any of the books, we have a table out there and we'll autograph, and you can chat with her some more. And
Yeah.
you have anything else to say, Paul?
No, thank you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Al. Wonderful. Thank you.
And I'm going to look at the names of those two women because it just drives me crazy that I can't recall. Thank you.
Don't worry about the mics.
Don't worry about the mic. Okay.